Oh, hi there. Thanks for stopping by the Gaming Outsider. My name is Sissy Jones, and you might recognize me from Firewatch, Destiny 2, maybe The Walking Dead, where I play way too many people to count. You're listening to Scott Clark and the Gaming Outsider. Enjoy yourself.
Greetings, programs, and welcome to episode 257 of The Gaming Outsider, a video game podcast with a focus on our incredible community. It's Monday, August 12th. I'm your host, Scott Clark, and I'm joined, as always, by my fellow co-hosts. First off, a guy I miss more than anything, Mr. Zack Parkerson. What's up, man?
You're way too sweet to me, Scott, and you never...
I try, man. I miss your face. I miss your face.
You know I don't know how to respond to kindness. It's not my forte.
Get used to it, man. Get used to it. You're going to get all kinds of kindness from me. I'm going to hug you so hard the next time I see you.
Aw. Well, maybe I'll give you a little kiss on the cheek.
Ooh, now I'm really looking forward to it. But in all sincerity, it is great to have you back. I can't wait to get into it with you again this week. Also joining us, a guy who hasn't been on in several months, our social media extraordinaire himself, Mr. Bob Villarreal. How you doing, man?
Very sleepy.
Yeah, do we need to get some energy drinks in you or something? You look like you're about to fall asleep.
Yeah, I'm pretty much there, but I'm off tomorrow, so I'm definitely sleeping.
All right, sounds good. Get rested up, and I'm glad you're joining us because you've actually been reviewing a game for us. Can't wait to talk about that. And speaking of seeing you guys in person, you guys know what's coming up in September. We've been talking about it every week. The Rock River Valley Video Game Convention, September 21st, 2019. We are gearing up. If you haven't checked out our site on that, please do so. It's thegamingoutsider.com/R2V2. You're not going to want to miss it. We've got two great celebrity voice actresses coming from the Los Angeles area, Sissy Jones and Courtney Taylor. We got vendor tables. We've got VR helmets for you to play. We've got rare and expensive games for you to try. And it only costs you $15 if you're an adult, $10 if you're a kid. And those tickets are on sale right now for $3 off. And that won't last forever, so get on that while you can. And also, if you can, please share with your friends and like, and I say that with air quotes that you can't see on the radio, like the R2V2 page. It helps us get exposure, and stay tuned for more details because we're actually working on some extra surprises that I can't tell you about, but it's going to be a great event, so stay tuned for that. Also, one other thing I want to say before we jump into the news, we are doing a charity drive for the Gaming Outsider. Friend of the show, Amanda Sink, over at the Hollywood Outsider, is an advocate for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and she is hosting a suicide walk here in the week after R2V2, actually. And we decided to do a little bit of a competition between us and the Hollywood Outsider to see which community could raise the most money for this awesome charity. What they're doing is really great work, and shout out to Amanda. She is doing some great work with this. She actually got to appear before Congress and advocate for the state of Illinois on behalf of this AFSP. So kudos to her, but there is a link in the show notes for a team that we've created based on the Gaming Outsider. If you are feeling generous and want to donate some bucks over there, we really would appreciate it because more than anything, I would just love to beat the Hollywood Outsider. Love those guys, but I'm ultra competitive, and let's see what we can do. So,
those guys suck.
No, they don't suck.
No, they're
suck. Awesome.
Aaron and Amanda, they suck.
Aren't they your co-hosts on Smirk?
Yeah, that's what I said. John's great. Love John. What a guy.
Wow, this just went to dark places I was not expecting. That's amazing. But Zack, you are for sure coming up in September, yes?
Yes, sir. I mean, would it even be a show if I weren't there?
No, it'd be pretty lackluster. No, that's not true. That's not fair. I'm underselling it.
No,
it'll be that much brighter if you were there.
Brighter. I appreciate you using that word around me.
Have you ever heard anybody use that word to describe you before?
I once had a person call me sunshine, and I was like, I don't think so. That was about it.
Well,
I think she was saying it sarcastically, though.
Probably. It was, definitely sarcasm. And you were the king of sarcasm, so it kind of worked.
There you go.
Can't dish it out, don't take it. I think I said that backwards, but you know what I was going for. Let's go ahead and jump into the week's news before I mess up another line. Somewhat of a light news week, but we got some interesting things nonetheless. First off, the Entertainment Software Association, or the ESA, has said that Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft are currently working on policies to disclose loot box odds. What does this mean? It basically means that when you play a game that has loot boxes that you can pay real money for, they're going to be required to tell you the odds of actually getting what you want. Now, Apple's been doing this on their iOS games since 2007. Google Play followed suit shortly after, but it looks like for the consoles, this could get implementation as soon as 2020. What do you guys think about this news?
I really don't think it's that big of a thing. I mean, when you look at the whole scheme of loot boxes or whatever else a game might call it, war chests or things of that nature, it's people buy them randomly anyways. I mean, if you got the money, you got the money. If you don't, I don't. I don't buy anything with my own money. Sometimes a game will give you some sort of in-game currency where you can get something to kind of, wet your whistle, tease you like, oh, hey, look what you got. Maybe you do want to do this. And for those people, that's fine. I know my son does. I get him a couple gift cards, for his birthday or for Christmas every year. And he jumps in for that sort of thing. And that's fine. It's fun for the kids. You get something. But, I mean, for the most part, everything's, nothing really affects the gameplay anyways. A lot of these games, it's just cosmetic, and for that, I mean, I don't see the reason to spend the money anyways, and that's just on a personal level. But at the same time, I don't think that a rating is really going to help or dissuade. I shouldn't say. I guess it might help. It may dissuade people if you see a lower rating and say, "Oh, I have a 3.7% chance of getting the best thing." Okay, maybe people won't want to do it at that point, but I'm not. That's the only really big downfall, I think, to that, is that some people could lose some money depending on how the rating is formatted or how it looks, whether it's similar to what iOS is doing now since 2017. But for the most part, I don't know. I think that, if people have the extra money, they're just going to do it anyways.
Yeah, I agree with you to a point in that it's not as big of a problem on console. I think that loot boxes or these kinds of transactions are a bit more egregious on mobile. That could be just from my experience, though. I don't play a ton of games that involve loot boxes or have these microtransactions. Like you, Bob, I'm not too bothered by it because I don't really want to spend that money on cosmetic things or pay-to-win scenarios. It's just not the way that I like to play games, and I have the I can't think of the right word. I have the ability to just say no and not do that.
You have the wherewithal.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. I have the wherewithal to make that decision. But yeah, I'm like you. I don't really need them, but I'm also not everybody else, and I understand that video games are played a lot by children who may not have the wherewithal or the maturity to not spend money as much as they want and understand how that works. So I think it's a good thing. I think it's better that they have it on there. It makes them look better, and if it educates parents and kids more on what's going on in video games, I'm all for it. I don't think there's any negative towards this thing happening. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, look, I got some beef with the ESA right now, but
yeah, you and me both, man.
they're the reason my phone is blowing up. But I don't know, yeah, of course, this is a good thing. Why wouldn't you? I mean, even I know we don't want to say loot boxes gambling, but even the scratch off lotteries have the odds printed on the back. So this is less fair than scratch offs right now. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's hard to not call that stuff gambling, man. I mean, even if it is cosmetic, you're paying money for a chance to get what you want.
Yeah, but I wouldn't.
Right?
Is Magic the Gathering gambling?
That's a good point. Where you buy a pack of cards and you don't know what you're going to get?
Exactly.
Is buying a pack of baseball cards
is that gambling?
Gambling.
No,
I don't think
it's not. And I think more than that, like how it's happened in a couple of European countries where they've done away with loot boxes because they say it's gambling. To me, it's not gambling. In gambling, you wager to win something or nothing at all. When it comes to loot boxes, you do get something. It may not be what you want. It may not be what you need, but it's something of value. You get something, and again, radio air quotes, value. When it comes cosmetically, it may not be the outfit you want or the skin for your weapon, but you get something. When I go buy a lottery ticket, odds are I'm getting nothing.
Right.
That's true. And I think what a lot of people are worried about is what this is going to do in the minds of kids. They're going to grow up into adults and have the ability to gamble and not understand the difference between what they did in Fortnite or these other games that have loot boxes, and then go out and spend money on lottery tickets or slot machines or roulette or whatever your game may be, and not really have the same understanding that with gambling you're going to walk away with nothing, whereas in these games you still get something out of it. It may not be exactly what you want, but you're not walking away with nothing.
I mean, wouldn't they learn that lesson pretty quick then? But it's also not, you're not giving kids credit in that instance. I'm sure people can differentiate the difference between entering the financial transaction knowing you're only going to get a digital reward as opposed to entering a financial transaction hoping to gain money back. Those are two different things.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you. Understand, I'm not saying this is what I think. This is what the public thinks. This is what the people that are upset about this and thinking that these basically Surgeon General warnings on video games, why they need to be there. I think that's the thought process that they've got.
I can understand that, but I also, when it comes to kids, I look at my kids, like I said, like my son who's 13, I'd buy him some gift cards and he'll use it on Overwatch or he'll use it on Minecraft or something of that nature. And again, it's pretty much just cosmetic items. But he's 13. He's not using his own money. It's different. I think when you're old enough to take a trip to Vegas or to the riverboat in Chicago or whatever it is, it's different when it's your money. And I think at that point you realize that, oh, you know what? I got this $50 and I may not be leaving with this $50. So I think the wherewithal comes with, an adjustment as far as age and experience. But then again, we all had to experience it. But that's also a way of learning. You learn from loss, you'll learn from defeat. And if you don't, well, you're doomed to repeat it. So maybe my son does need to lose $50 on the roulette table, but he doesn't need to learn that yet.
Well, to your point, we did learn that, with trading cards. And
which is
did
what
it
this
affect
is.
our gambling habits? Yeah.
No.
This is just a digital format of trading cards.
Right, and this isn't like, to the Surgeon General thing, it's not like they're slapping a sticker on the box. It's just in-game divulging of the odds.
Right.
Which seems good as well because, I'm not saying any game developer has done this, but I'm sure that it would be pretty easy to tweak the rarity of certain items day to day right now.
Yeah, they've got that on everything else on us at this point. Why not? Why not that, right?
Like everyone's going after the red jacket. Let's drop it down by 3% and, make sure more people are buying these loot boxes.
Oh, that's an interesting point because they can just change those on the fly whenever they want to. Does that force their hand to keep them? Or do they just have like a rotating
percentage
odds? Yeah, like when you go to the horse track and the odds change based on how people bet. Is that just going to be a rolling thing?
Well, under these guidelines, we'll always have to be updated. So
I didn't even think about that. That could totally be just like a constantly rolling odds because the one that's rare, everybody wants that one. That was, you have a 30% chance of getting that. Well, if everybody wants that one, we're going to drop that down and make it a little more rare to get people to buy more. So they're going to have to post that somewhere. You can't print that on the box because you can't change that.
Exactly, yeah.
So where are these labels going to be?
In-game, I would assume. I'm sure it'll be obfuscated, obfuscated? That's not a word. Hidden behind some menus.
Stop trying to be all fancy with your vocabulary, man.
That's how I get by.
I think that the right place to do this, since you actually have to be online in order to buy the in-game currency to pay for these loot boxes, the right place would be right at the buy screen, wherever that may be. Press Y to do this, and then you see the odds of getting whatever it is you want right there.
Well, yeah.
As you pay.
No one reads that though. South Park did an episode on this on the iOS terms of service.
Yeah.
Where what was it? Like Kyle didn't know that he was actually signing away his kidneys or something like that. Like no one reads that stuff.
Yeah, everyone just scrolls down and says, I agree.
Yep,
Give it in my game. Give it in my
exactly, and that's the point.
But kudos for happening as soon as 2020. I know that seems like a long ways away since we're only halfway through or actually close to 3/4 of the way through the year, but they can make that happen that quick, I'm all on board. But yeah, I'm still angry at the ESA myself, like you, Zach, because my emails are just getting out of hand. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on. One of the rarest NES carts has shown up at a mom and pop retail store in Seattle this week. If you're not into the collecting world like CB and myself are, there's a cartridge called Nintendo World Championship from 1990. This is, how to describe this? This was used in a video game competition that Nintendo put on back in 1990 that was basically a combination of Super Mario Brothers, Rad Racer, and Tetris all on one cartridge. It was a score grab where you played a level of one game, it would move you on automatically to the next game and then on to the next game. And there were not very many of these made. In fact, I think they only gave cartridges to people that were actually in the competition. So anyway, this cartridge just shows up randomly at a store, and it's sold for $13,000 to the store owner, who would promptly turn around and sold it to an undisclosed buyer for an undisclosed amount of money, which is pretty crazy. But I thought this is interesting. Zach, I know you're not a big game collector like I am outside of the games that you love, but what do you think about that price tag?
I don't know if I have the price tag too. I mean, I always heard this cart is a big deal, so $13,000 doesn't seem that crazy to me. And I'm sure they flipped it, obviously made a profit of some kind. I think it's cool this person didn't know what they had, right? So it probably came out of an attic or a garage or something. So that's one more in the circulation for collectors, and that's always cool. You know, unlike people like me who get the unopened collector's item and then tear it open, you know, taking it out of circulation. So it's nice.
I'm twitching.
Nice if something enters the circulation.
Yeah, that's a good point. What about you, Bob? I don't even know what you collect.
I don't really collect anything anymore. I mostly collect debt. So that's...
Well, you are a father.
I am a father. That's in fact true, and I don't think that debt's going to go away for a long time because my daughter definitely wants to go to college. But I think the best part about this, I mean, not money-wise, the fact that someone found it, is that they're talking about the Nintendo World Championship, and it reminds me of the movie The Wizard.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that because I
Video
always,
Armageddon.
Oh, I loved it. And that's what this was. I mean, it was something that's exactly what this was, where it was given away, and then I was thinking, oh, was there some special, version of Super Mario 3 that was given away one year and no one really knows about it. It's just going to surface one day and it's going to be worth like $10,000 itself. But I think it's neat. It's always neat to find these little aspects of antiquity. When you look at like the Antique Roadshow, people finding all these little fun knickknacks and things that are valued and they have no idea, what it's worth. And to some people, yeah, it's worth money and that's what they want. And to other people, it's worth, prestige or collectability, like you said. So I say good for them either way. Guy found it, didn't really want it, wanted the money, awesome. But someone else ended up getting it that wants it and that would honor it and cherish it as much as our Chris Bearsmeyer would. Then
I was going to say, do we know if CB is the buyer or not? Have we confirmed?
I'm pretty sure if he bought this, he would be... I would have been the first person he would have told. And since it's been like a few days since this story released and I haven't heard from him about it, I feel confident that's not the case. Plus, both of his cars just died, and he needs to buy a new vehicle. So
that's what he told me. Really, he sold the cars so he could buy the cart.
Yeah, that's probably what happened. I actually kind of secretly hope that's what happened. Well, I wish CB were here so I could ask him this question, but I'll ask you guys instead. Do you think that this Nintendo World Championship should be considered as part of a complete set of Nintendo games, of the original 8-bit Nintendo Entertainment System, or could somebody have a complete set without it?
I'd say someone could have a complete set without it. I mean, if you're talking about cartridges, yeah, you'd need another cartridge. But games-wise, it's got games that are already existing in Nintendo. Now, if one of these games, whether it was Super Mario or any of the others, didn't have their own cartridge, I think that would have to be a part of the complete set. But I don't think you really need to own, if you own Super Mario Brothers, and Duck Hunt or something else that was like a half and half, I don't think you need to own one of each and the cartridge that's both games. You can, but if you don't own the cartridge that's both games, I don't consider you to not have a complete set.
Man, if you talk to CB about this, he would probably disagree with you because there are actually some people that go after the different versions of same games. Yeah, some people may not know this, but if you turn over a Nintendo cartridge in the back, there are screws that hold it in place. And some of the cartridges have 5 screws, some of them only have 3 screws. There are multiple variations on labels. So depending on who you talk to, some things make a complete set and some things don't. But
I can see that too, but I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't say that someone doesn't have every game.
Mm-hmm.
If there's how many Nintendo games are in a complete set?
Between 8 and 900.
Yeah. So if you have 855 games and there are 855 games, but someone has the same amount of games, but they have it in 873 cartridges, does the 855 not have a complete set of games?
That's a good point, man. It makes me feel a lot better because I know I'm never going to have one of these. So, because even if I could find one, there's no way I'm going to talk my wife into spending $15,000 on a cartridge. So,
I think when you're collecting stuff and the number of an item is so low like this, I think the collective collectors community can all just agree, like, this one doesn't count.
Okay.
You know, it's one thing to have every issue of Amazing Spider-Man, but it's pretty unrealistic to expect that you have Amazing Fantasy 15 as well.
Fair enough. I like that answer. I'm just going to go with it. Zach, I want you to talk to me about new Splinter Cell because I didn't even hear about this, and you actually added this story. So what's going on with that?
Oh, man. Yves Guillemot, CEO of Ubisoft, who formerly said that their internal teams were too afraid to make a new Splinter Cell, has now said that there is a new Splinter Cell in the works, but not to expect it in the form you might, probably want. But he said, the forms as before.
What does that mean?
Well, he said there will be some new types of experiments, but on more different devices. We are working a little bit on the brands today to come back at one point. We can't say when because, as you know, it takes time. But each time we have to find the right experience to come back big.
I don't know. The on more different devices makes me think it's a mobile game.
Mobile game or VR?
Or VR, yeah.
I'm
which
thinking
is
VR.
not what you want.
I don't want either of those. I just want Michael. Yeah. I don't think most people do. I think most people just want Michael Ironside as Sam Fisher in a game. In
a third-person stealth action game.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep. That's exactly, I mean, that's what I started playing back in the early 2000s when it came out, and that's what I liked.
That's what people want. I understand they'll probably make it open world because it's 2019 and Ubisoft can't be stopped, but I would take that over an experimental thing. I really just want to be Sam Fisher again.
Splinter Cell Battle Royale.
100 Splinter Cells enter.
Sam Fisher number 1, Sam Fisher number 2, Sam Fisher number 3.
If you won the last game, you get to be Sam Fisher in the next game you play.
Oh, man, I want some kind of competition to be like that, where they do, the winner of this gets to be featured in the next game or something like that. Why don't they do that more often? Why is that kind of promotion thing not happening?
I always thought it was super cool, and I know this is a weird example, but in Kane and Lynch, the Dead Men, whatever, their multiplayer, if you were number 1 in the world, you played as Kane, and if you were number 2 in the world, you played as Lynch. And everyone else just played as random mercenaries. But I always thought that was a super cool idea.
Yeah. You got to play a lot of Kane and Lynch in order to...
Yeah, I don't know how many people did, but...
hey, I'd be screenshotting that like crazy.
That second one was pretty good.
The second Kane and Lynch? I don't think I played it.
Oh, it was like the whole visual aesthetic was as if there was a camcorder following them around the whole time.
Oh, okay. Like it was like found footage type of situation.
It was pretty neat.
Interesting. Well, speaking of other new games coming out, actually literally minutes before we started recording, a trailer leaked. I don't even know if I'm supposed to talk about this, to be honest with you, but it's on Twitter, so I think it's fair game. But Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville, which has been a big secret for some reason from EA. And a lot of us have known about this for a while because of some information we had received. But a trailer dropped for this, which it looks very similar to Garden Warfare, but with a little bit of a twist. What do you guys think of this trailer? Did you get a chance to watch it?
Oh, I did. I did watch it. Yeah, it's just Garden Warfare 3, right? I can't believe they keep making these games.
Yeah.
Who's playing these?
My kids did
Some
like
people
5-6 years
them,
ago.
Oh yeah. Okay. Hey, I stand corrected.
5-6 years ago. I mean, that's the thing. You're playing them. my kids were interested in something like that, but I definitely wasn't going to let them play Battlefield as I was doing and have, someone get to see me skewer them from behind and look down at serrated steel as they died. So you get to shoot gumballs as a plant. So that's more up the speed of the youngins, I guess. I haven't seen it, but I would assume that it would look just like the other games, maybe with different characters, different abilities, something of that nature. But different zombies with different equipment. But
I will tell you, the song that they have in this trailer is a super cheesy rap song. Would you call it a rap song, Zach?
Oh, you know what? I didn't watch it. I did not watch it with sound on.
Oh man, it's full of like plant puns.
Oh, they had that really nice song when you beat the first game.
I don't even remember.
I don't want zombies on my lawn. You don't remember that?
No, I don't remember that. Are you talking about the original Plants vs. Zombies, or are you talking about Garden Warfare?
Yeah, I'm talking about the old iPhone game.
Oh man, and that's the thing about this trailer is, as fun as this does look, I still haven't played Garden Warfare or Garden Warfare 2, so I'm behind the game in terms of that. I just want some good old Plants vs. Zombies, like the actual management game. Give me some new of that, because Plants vs. Zombies 2 was a good try, but it was free to play.
It was a free to play nightmare, Scott. Just say it.
Yeah. I was trying to be nice, but it was a nightmare. I gave up like 20 minutes in, seriously. And I adored the first Plants vs. Zombies. Give me more of that, because that game is so addicting and works so well. Such a clever concept. I just give me a Plants vs. Zombies 3, please.
Somebody, please,
somebody. But with that said, I am actually looking forward to trying this out, because outside of the music in this trailer, I thought it looked like a lot of fun. They showed very little gameplay though. It was a lot of animation of the other characters, and just I think like the last 20 seconds showed gameplay, but we'll see what happens.
It's a cute idea as a shooter, kind of like Pokemon is, a kid's first RPG. It's kind of cute. Somebody's trying to do like, kid's first shooter.
Yeah, but you're also going up against Fortnite, which is a kid's shooter.
Yeah, I guess I think of it as Battle Royale is such a different thing to a shooter to me.
Yeah, I mean, aren't the Garden Warfare things more like tower defense style games?
No, aren't they just kind of like Call of Duty?
Just Call of Duty.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I genuinely thought they were tower defense.
Hence Garden Warfare.
Yes.
Well, that makes sense. All right, well, that does it for the news. Let's go ahead and move on. We've got a couple Patreon episodes available for you, as we've talked the last few weeks. Our Retro Outsider episode for 007 games, and for games that aren't for us, 007 games is available for you. And we are working on some Zelda games. CB and I spent several hours playing Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link, on the original NES this past week. I still have very fond memories of that game, but that game is hard, guys.
Very much
hard.
Yes.
It's very difficult. Spent a lot of time grinding the very first dungeon just to get my experience levels up to be able to manage the rest of the game. So stay tuned for us talking about that one, as well as the original Zelda and Link to the Past. And then we're going to be doing a Break the Seal episode this month also on Horizon Zero Dawn, so you won't want to miss that. If that or any of our other episodes sound intriguing to you, you're going to want to check out patreon.com/thegocast, and it helps us keep the lights on the show over here. We really do appreciate it. With that, we're going to go ahead and jump into the From the Outside In topic. This week's topic comes from a brand new member to the Gaming Outsider Facebook community, so shout out to Jason Cartledge, who wanted to know what games we thought revolutionized the industry the most. Which ones changed gaming, but in your opinion, not in a good way? Let's start there. Which ones made things kind of worse? What do you think, Zach?
Far Cry 3.
Oh, you shut up.
Yep.
Yeah. Remember when I said I missed you?
Oh, wow. What a quick turnaround.
What is wrong with Far Cry 3? How did that change things for the worse?
Okay, well, yeah. Well, the game itself is fun from what I remember playing. But it's the first game I remember where they put this open world crafting skill tree nonsense together, which was super, from what I understand, super good in that game. And, I liked it in the Assassin's Creed that followed. But now it's got to be in every freaking game all the time. And I think that's making games worse. Not every game needs to be 60 hours. Not every game needs to have dense menus and sub-menus and subsystems. It's okay to just make a game.
Okay.
I buy that.
You're turning me around a little bit. I get what you're saying.
I'm not coming at Far Cry 3 itself. You asked what had a bad impact. Far Cry 3, great. Its impact, not so great.
Do you think that's where it started? There's not a game before that did that?
That's the first, because I feel like my original choice is Assassin's Creed for the same reason, but it didn't really have the crafting and the skill tree stuff. I want to say that kind of started with Far Cry 3. Now, I'm happy to be mistaken, but I feel like that's the first breakout game that kind of threw all that stuff together.
It's probably the first one that I played. I'm sure someone's streaming at their radio right now about this game that did it first, but I think that didn't really take place in Assassin's Creed until Black Flag, when you actually had to hunt animals for wallets. Like you got 4 rhinoceros, and you were able to craft a wallet with that, which made sense. Not at all, but that's fair. I can see where that could go.
It was a sturdy wallet, though.
Yeah, you could you use it for Kevlar as well. You just carry it on your chest. That works.
That's right.
Bob, what about you?
I went with something that David Newman and GamerDad said. Well, they actually said something on the pros, but a con to what they read, and I'll read what they said in a minute when we talk about the pros, but what they did was they brought up Battle Royale and bringing Battle Royale to the forefront as a whole. Everyone is trying and many are failing at Battle Royale. Everyone seems to want to get in on the success of Battle Royale because of some of these games like Fortnite and PUBG that have had so much success initially. But you just can't make Battle Royale out of everything. Just like I joked about Splinter Cell Battle Royale a couple of minutes ago. So many companies seem to want to jump in and think you can do anything. You can make anything Battle Royale, and it just doesn't work. You've got Call of Duty, which is a moderate success. But then you look at Battlefield that really just didn't do a very good job of it. It just looks like regular Battlefield, but you easily win because not too many people are in on it.
Well, didn't they wait to release that until much later after the initial release?
They did, and that was unfortunate. And I think that another part that hurts it is that it's not free. When you look at something like Fortnite, where they released it and it was free, that was really big. You didn't have to buy the initial game. All you had to do was download just the Fortnite Battle Royale. You got to play. You can still play for free. You can get cosmetics if you want, but you can play it and spend absolutely no coin at all.
I would argue that PUBG probably made Battle Royale more popular before Fortnite did. Because if you remember, PUBG was all the rage. That's all everybody was streaming for several months.
Well, you're right.
And then everyone said, it was like, hey, have you guys heard about this Fortnite game that came out? And I'm like, Fortnite, what's that? And it's kind of like PUBG, but you can build forts. And I'm like, well, that sounds kind of interesting.
It is, but
next thing you know, the dances come out, and that's all everybody talks about.
Right, and yeah, the dances, absolutely. But that's what it was. It was just a progression. There was H1Z1, and then there was PUBG, and then there was Fortnite. And it's not that you can't make a Battle Royale game, but it's wanting to take all of these other games that haven't had a Battle Royale mode and just attempting that just to try and cash in on the success of a Battle Royale style is,
gotcha.
I think, hurting everything, because every time something comes out, we're watching E3 and someone says, oh, we're going to come out with My Little Pony Battle Royale, and just the eyes roll into the back of the head. It's like, you don't need that. And that
even
I think
before H1Z1, wasn't Rust? Wasn't that like the true first Battle Royale, or am I misremembering my timeline?
Nope, Rust was before it, yes.
Yeah, so we should really give credit to Rust for the craze that is Battle Royale.
No, I'm still going to give it to Fortnite. So that exploded it into the stratosphere, though.
Yeah, you're not wrong. That's the one that definitely made it a household name.
Right, like that's the one people are copying. People aren't looking at PUBG anymore.
Also true.
That's true. There was a bit of a resurgence with H1Z1 because they finally released it on console and did some patching, and it was never going to eclipse anything. And then Apex happened. So.
Oh yeah, remember Apex, man? That game was so good.
It still is pretty good. Although I haven't touched any of the Season 2 stuff at all. I haven't touched that game in a long time.
Samesies.
Man, it's hard for me to answer a game that has changed it for the bad. My initial gut was to say the battle royale craze, like Bob said, but that's not necessarily a negative on the industry to me, just because I'm not massively into the battle royale. So on a personal level, I get annoyed with that kids are talking about when there's such better, richer storytelling stuff going on. Granted, Apex is a lot of fun, but I'd rather go play a story-based game or something with a bit more fun mechanics. And that's what bums me out about battle royale. Is there are more enriching experiences out there. I mean, there's no storytelling, and well, no, that's not true, because what they do with the different seasons in Fortnite is actually pretty interesting. Remember when there was the crack in the sky that everybody noticed, and they kept getting bigger and bigger over time?
Oh yeah, my son was texting me these pictures. He'd play. I get 15, 20, 30 pictures a day. I'm like, nothing's going to change, buddy. You think it's getting bigger. It's not. It's going to be there until the new season starts in 20 days, and pictures all the time.
And even though I don't play those games, I think that stuff is kind of cool. That's what the kids are talking about on the playground. When I was a kid, it was, hey, did you get past this level in Mario? These guys actually have a living, breathing world where things are changing, and they get to talk about it, and it's brilliant marketing on Epic's part. I think that's cool. I don't know if I would call that a narrative, but it's definitely storytelling to a degree. I think you could argue. What do you think, Zach? You look like you're looking skeptical, like Scott's crazy.
No, it is definitely a form of storytelling, and it is really cool for kids, and it is smart for Epic, and that's probably why they stuck with their guns, and Apex is just this quiet thing in the corner now. It's probably that kind of stuff. So no, it is definitely storytelling. But yeah, no, I can see what you're saying, because Fortnite is an impressive video game, but it doesn't really show what video games can do.
That's true. You know what I'd like to see, speaking of Apex, is I would like to see them flip the script a bit, because we're so used to these games that have played the way that we're used to playing them for years, and then, like Bob said, oh, now it's got a Battle Royale mode. Let's take Apex, which is a Battle Royale game. Let's build a narrative around it, because there are some interesting characters in that game.
I like that.
Let's build a 8 to 12 hour single player experience, or even 2 to 4 player co-op experience, and build a story around these characters, because I want to know what's up with them, and make something cool. That would get me pretty interested.
Yeah, the Unreal Championship games did a good job of that. They would do a little campaign, and even the missions would take place in the multiplayer maps, but it was still a cool way to learn more about the world, and it got me invested in wanting to play the multiplayer because I knew the characters.
Right.
Yeah. So
something I wish that the original Titanfall did.
Yes.
Because you got barely a story on that, and I wanted to know about this world so much.
You got a radio play.
Yeah. Man, I miss Titanfall.
Still there, man.
I think I've told you this before, but that's the only multiplayer game I've ever prestiged.
Yeah.
Yeah. I played so much Titanfall, it's ridiculous.
I think Titanfall is pretty great.
You still play the original, or do you play Titanfall 2?
No, I play Titanfall 2,
Yeah. We should do that one of these community game nights, man. Do some Titanfall. I haven't done that in forever.
Great game.
Yeah.
Check that.
All right, so now that we've gotten the quote-unquote bad out of the way, what games do you think have revolutionized the video game industry in a positive way? Flipping it around. Bob, what do you think?
Well, going back to the pros, Dave Newman said, Fortnite really brought Battle Royale to the forefront of gaming. GamerDad said Fortnite free to play and making premium content past as popular. That's where a lot of these things have come to fruition. I never really heard much about sort of anything that people were complaining about, whether like how we were talking about with gambling and loot boxes or pay to play. I didn't hear a lot about that, at least in games that I was playing or involved with, until my son started playing a lot of Fortnite. I started playing a lot of Fortnite. So, then when I hear about, hey, they're making a game that's free to play, it's massively popular, a lot of people like it, there is premium content, but it's just cosmetic. You don't have to do anything, and that's really big. I think GamerDan really hit it on the head there, is that you've got something that people can spend money on, but you can spend zero and still have just as good a time as anyone else that you're playing, any of your friends, and that's the best part. You can get online with a couple of your friends and play, which is really, really huge. And just being able to make something that interesting, a battle royale mode, like David Newman said, bringing that to the forefront of gaming. Is there a downside to it? Yes, but on the plus side, there's so much to it. It's an ever evolving, changing thing. Different season, different cosmetics, different changing the maps, and constantly, almost weekly, changing how your weapons work, or as far as tweaking damage and things like that. So I mean, just like any other shooter, it's fun, but they're not teeny tiny maps, and it takes a lot more communication and a lot more teamwork than just a smaller Destiny 1 map or even a small Call of Duty map. It's large. There's teamwork. Plus, you can share weapons, share supplies, share shields, things like that. So, bringing that to the forefront of gaming community that I thought was, kind of starving for something new at the time, that was really big. And I absolutely agree with them both on it.
To add on to that too, from these games being looked at in a positive light, we had the Fortnite World Cup recently.
Yes.
That was all over the news. I mean, we've been trying to get positive video game news for forever, and that was a cool story. 16-year-old kid won $3 million, and that wouldn't have happened without Fortnite. And not just because it was a Fortnite World Cup, but that game is so popular that they were able to put something televised to that level. Unfortunately, the kid I don't know if you guys heard that story, but the kid who won got swatted last night.
Which is terrible.
Yeah, unsurprising, but terrible.
Isn't that a felony now? Can't they track IP addresses? And
I think so, right?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I can't imagine
I gotta go.
Allowed. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they're registered in like an act of terrorism or something like that. I don't know if that actually happened, or happened yet, but I know I've heard about that because there have been people dying. There was a gamer who got shot and killed. There was a gamer who gave the wrong address. So the guy who was doing the swatting called the police on the address, goes to an address, and guy's like, "Who the hell are you?" And he dies.
Yeah.
And that's really terrible. He was charged with second-degree murder, I believe it was.
And he got caught, too. He faced serious consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And that just goes to show we have this awesome, positive story, which to me is like, yeah, gaming, let's go. And then it just gets ruined by this kind of stuff.
They were just trying to save the kid from the inevitable fate of his parents stealing all his money.
You're right. Yeah, that's exactly what they were going for.
You're a hero.
Maybe he was emancipated. Who knows?
Bob, did you have any games yourself that you thought revolutionized games in a positive way?
Nothing recent, but something that I always loved. That was very interesting. Initially, many years ago in the 80s, where I'm sure a lot of people weren't even born yet. Something like a battle system like Final Fantasy, I thought was fantastic. I've seen that over the years because I was someone who played, Atari, original Nintendo, and when that came out, I thought that, the RPG itself was huge. I'd never seen anything like it, but then their battle system that I've seen grow and change, and I've seen so many other games use somewhat similar battle systems where you can change it to make enemies a little more passive or aggressive, or things change as far as time is concerned. But I think that the evolution of something like that has, whether people realize it or not, I feel like that's kind of the granddaddy of a turn-based fighting style. And I think that so many games have utilized that over the past few decades.
Was the original Final Fantasy the first? I don't remember. Or Dragon Warrior. Which one came first? I don't remember.
Oh, golly. I'd have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure Final Fantasy was, I don't know, they were both like 86, 87.
Mm-hmm. There's probably a PC game before that did it too that we're not remembering.
Right, I'm sure, but I'm thinking, console-wise and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Zach, what about you, man?
Well, Rico Ramirez said, I would say The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time showed what 3D open world games could be. And while I would disagree with Rico in that it's an open world game because it's a hub and spoke game, patented trademark. I have always maintained that Ocarina of Time is the most important video game ever made.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you. That game just did so many things and changed the landscape of gaming.
Right, and I know Super Mario 64 came along first to kind of prove how the 3D games could be done well. This kind of proved that we could build worlds, right? I like to tell the anecdote of getting the grappling hook in the game and like realizing you could hook shot onto things, obviously, and I was trying to get across the Zora River, and I looked at a sign, I was like, well, that's wood, that should work, and then it did work. And it blew my mind as a kid. I was like, holy crap, like this world is reacting in a way that I would expect the real world to react.
Mm-hmm.
And that really lit my gamer brain on fire.
As did mine. I wasn't as young as you, but it definitely was a wow moment. And that game brought forth to so many things. Z targeting.
Right. Yeah.
Is there a game that did that before? That's even a commonplace in games like Dark Souls.
Right. Dark Souls, absolutely has Z targeting.
Yeah, that all started with that. I feel like we say this all the time, but the first time you step out into Hyrule Field and you realize that you've just seen a small smidgen of what the game has to offer you. And
right, after playing for hours.
Yeah. Well, it felt like, the first time you do it, you're trying to figure out how the game works. Yeah.
But it's just, and it brought like a grandiose and a scale and an epicness to its storytelling. That game's pretty important.
I would still argue that Mario 64 is up there too, because that revolutionized what platformers could be.
Sure. No, I do not disagree with you there.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
I would be
and I've actually had an urge to go back and play that. I wish that game would get remastered because it looks rough if you play it on the original 64. The gameplay still holds up.
Mario 64?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. But then also, Son Goku said, I know it's not the first MMO, but I think World of Warcraft defined the genre. Very few MMOs have the longevity and active player base WoW does. It set the bar for what a great MMO should be, and lots of games have tried emulating Vanilla WoW's formula, including World of Warcraft itself. I honestly don't even like that game, but I can see it in every single MMO I have tried. Yeah, I think WoW is a no-brainer for an important video game. It is, in terms of what it did for online gaming, MMOs, everyone's been trying to copy it ever since. It's kind of
kudos to Son Goku for bringing it up, even though he doesn't like the game. I love that. He recognizes that's how powerful the game is and how much it revolutionized it invented the MMO genre, so to speak, or made it popular. We were talking about how in Fortnite they've got the ever-changing world and things happen. World of Warcraft's been doing that for how long? It's got to be pushing 20 years now, right?
Right. Even they had that one expansion that just like completely destroyed the game map too.
Yeah, and it was just like a destroyed. It was almost like a post-apocalyptic thing. And again, this is not a game I've played, but I've heard people talk about it and just talk about it lovingly.
Have you seen did you ever see the article about World of Warcraft about the virus?
No.
Someone made a computer virus, and he infected his character with it. It was a real thing. And what it did was it would inevitably get carried on just like a very dangerous pathogen to us. And it would spread and it would spread, and eventually all these characters were dying. And the programmers of the game couldn't figure out how to stop this, how to turn it around. He had it, so well made that they couldn't stop it. And eventually they did. But what happened because of this is that the CDC started using that, World of Warcraft, and that sort of thing that someone made just for a ha-ha, and they started using that as a sort of platform or blueprint if, just in case something like that would happen in the real world.
Huh.
So they would actually go through and they would try and find they found ways, the same way that he manipulated like a computer virus and put it in the system, different strengths, different levels. Okay, well, this person doesn't travel, or this person is on his island. How does it affect the rest of the world? And so, even though someone did something like that for the wrong reason, it's something that could inevitably help and shape humanity. So, if World of Warcraft wasn't around, we might not have that kind of knowledge that the CDC has now.
Look at that. The more you know.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh god. I got a few more though. I think Gears of War.
Yeah.
Introducing covers. I know Kill Switch technically had a cover system, but there's no denying Gears of War popularized cover systems. Every game pretty much used a cover system for the next 10 years or so.
And Active Reload. I don't feel like that was in a shooter before that game, was it?
Yeah, but you said this is supposed to be impactful and influential games. Nobody used Active Reload. I
use Active Reload.
No, I meant other games.
Oh, you mean future games?
Yeah,
okay.
like it didn't. Everyone should have. Just like everyone should have used the Nemesis system, but nobody did.
That's what I was going to bring up next. Yeah, you're exactly right.
So I think Gears of War is very important, and Modern Warfare, I think, is a game you don't really think about its impact, but every multiplayer game having a progression system is because of that game.
That's true.
So that's kind of
Good
a big game changer. Maybe a little this is a little more biased towards me, but Arkham Asylum.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone took that combat system. They're still using it to this day. But also it kind of proved that we don't have to sit by and have movie tie-ins or crappy licensed games, and that superhero games should be great and given time and a budget.
Yeah, because weren't we all skeptical when that game was announced? Like, oh, another Batman game.
Big time, and I remember it was being published by Eidos, who wasn't exactly in a great spot at the time. So,
and then it was beautiful.
Yeah, right, and then everybody was using its stealth and combat mechanics afterwards.
Yeah.
Or like
I think I played through that game in a week the first time I played it. It was just, I could not put it down.
Yeah, I remember my father bought it and brought it over to where I was staying at the time. He's like, here, you should borrow this. I think it's better than you think it'll be. And I was like, whatever. This Batman game, I don't need to play. The last Batman game he had me play was Dark Tomorrow. It's one of the worst games I ever played. And then, I played through it in about a night. So
that's how it goes.
Pretty great game.
All right, do you have any others?
No, I think that about wraps it up.
All right. Well, I had a few on my list from listeners, a couple that were stole my answer, but I'm going to go ahead and read them. First off, Matt Lance says The Witcher 2. I know everyone loves the third game, but the second is a much more condensed story, but with far more wide-reaching consequences based on your choices and actions that would leave many main characters dead or alive all the way to the very, very end. The third built on this, but not to the same level in my opinion, and it's what games like the Mass Effect trilogy promised. Ultimately, The Witcher achieved where they did not. That level of detail and choice has impacted a lot of games that came after and are still to come. I picked this one because I've played The Witcher 2, but I didn't complete it, but I just really liked what he wrote about it. He seems very passionate about it, and makes me really want to go back and play The Witcher 2 before trying to dive into Witcher 3. So I'll add it to my summer list, apparently, which didn't get touched this year.
It is pretty wild that game's entire second act changes depending on the choices you make.
Mm-hmm.
Which is its biggest act. That's pretty nuts.
It is pretty nuts.
You think it's leaving an impact, though?
Not
to I don't want to attack you, Matt. Obviously you're passionate about the game, but wouldn't if you're looking about the impact of choices in game, wouldn't you look kind of more towards a KOTOR or a Baldur's Gate or something?
Well, KOTOR was the decisions you made in that just more or less affected your morality, right? It didn't actually change story beats as much, did it?
Yeah. I can think off the top of my head. There's a specific character. Can I spoil KOTOR? Basila's fate is up to the player.
Oh, okay.
But no, I mean, The Witcher 2's choices were far more dire and gray and interesting. But
I feel like we should have had somebody like a fourth person on here, like a silent partner in this episode, to be Googling and finding out what games we're not thinking about that actually did this first, that actually revolutionized this stuff.
If the games were impactful and revolutionary, we would remember them. But you remember the ones that did it well, like Gears of War.
That's a good point, because which one do we actually give it credit to? The one that did it first or the one that popularized it?
I think it's the one that popularized it, because Kill Switch had a cover system, but Gears of War made a good one.
Fair enough.
And therefore is more impactful.
And since I did look it up, I'll say the same thing about mine, about the turn-based system. I looked it up, in the Dragon Warrior did come out in 86, Final Fantasy in 87, but I think Final Fantasy changed it to a point where a lot of games wanted to use it, or they started altering and, kind of advancing on what they made it.
Gotcha.
You can tell you guys are old because you call it Dragon Warrior instead of Dragon Quest.
It was Dragon Warrior because that was the name of it.
Yeah, it was.
But those games weren't Dragon Quest. You can't call it Dragon Quest in 86. There's no such thing. It was Dragon Warrior.
Dragon Quest 2, Dragon Quest 3, Dragon Quest 4. No, they're all Dragon Warrior. Dragon Warrior.
But if I could say anything about what you're talking about with The Witcher 2, I know it's not a game, but I'd say, and this also might be showing my age, but like a choose your own adventure book. I
loved those as a kid, man.
I know, but that's what I mean. It's like your choices changed the story.
Right.
And that wasn't necessarily a video game, but then again, we didn't have a lot of, we actually didn't have anything in video games similar to that back then. But we also don't credit Choose Your Own Adventure for the success of the Telltale games. We don't, but we should. But it's not a game. Yeah. But still, that's another really good point. That's a good call.
Yeah. I'm surprised we made it this far into this discussion without talking about this next game. Calvin Meyer says Halo really made FPSs mainstream on consoles, and Bethesda really made RPGs work on consoles with Morrowind, Oblivion, and Fallout 3. And the reason I picked this one was mostly for Halo. As much as I loved as much as I love Fallout 3, Halo is one of the games that really made first-person shooters a thing. There's another one that I'm going to mention here in just a second, but I think Halo deserves a lot more credit even though it didn't do it first. Because,
right. Shout out to Wolfenstein.
Yes, Wolfenstein did it first. Would you say... See, this is where that argument...
Yeah, no.
It's a gray area, so to speak.
Well, Wolfenstein 3D, it made the shooter, but Doom is the reason you remember shooters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then Halo, definitely popularized it to a whole other level.
And then the one that Chad wrote down that was going to be in my list was GoldenEye. Because GoldenEye was obviously before Halo. That's the first console shooter I ever played. And I played the hell out of that game. I mean, there's just countless hours, even with my dad. My stepdad played GoldenEye with me.
All the best people did.
It was a great game. And also, even though it didn't have a second stick on the N64 controller, I feel like GoldenEye was the first game that gave us a glimpse of playing a shooter where you could actually aim the sights with the stick instead of just doing that level playing field like you did on Wolfenstein and Doom.
I was going to say, it actually introduced verticality to shooters.
Thank you. That's the more technical way to say it, instead of me trying to make hand motions over a radio program.
Yeah, no one can see this, but we had to understand it.
Yeah, so GoldenEye was definitely one of my picks. And then the last one I got here comes from Wayne Henderson, my co-host from the Packers Fan Podcast. He says, does Pokemon Go on smartphones count because of how it built on the Go involvement from Ingress and took it to amazing levels? Although Harry Potter Wizards Unite really advances the different things to do in-game, Pokemon Go still has the most community involvement of any of these three games. Even in mid-2019, when Pokemon Go had its monthly community day, which is really only 3 hours, we see numerous other people of all ages going out to play around town. And the reason I wanted to put Wayne's comment here, not just because I like the guy, but man, the craze last year in 2018 with Pokemon Go, it was all over the news. You couldn't go to a park anywhere.
That was 2017, right?
Was it 2017? You're right. Holy cow, I'm getting old.
Yeah.
No, 2017.
I saw a tweet about Pokemon Go a few months ago that really messed me up, guys. And I don't remember who said the tweet, but it was those 2 months after Pokemon Go came out were the closest we'll ever get to world peace.
Man, that's kind of
that's
kind
really
of a
dark
sombering
and deep
thought.
at the same time. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
He's right, though.
It messed me up.
Yeah, wow.
It's true. Like my kids, they actually wanted to get outside. Mind you, they wanted to get outside with my cell phone. And then they would get mad, like the cell phone would continuously die. I'm like, you're using this thing that's using 20% battery every 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it actually got them outside and they had a lot of fun with it.
How cool was you would go out, you'd look for Pokemon, and you'd meet other people who are obviously Pokemon and be like, hey man, you seen any Butterfrees around here? Like, nah, just Drowsies around here, a bunch of Rattatas. People talking about something with each other.
Well, I remember that. I remember I was at Sinisippi Park with them, and we were over by the lagoon, and it had to be 20, 30 people just take off towards the parking lot. and no one knew why. And like these 20, 30 people, they come back. I'm like, what's going on? You guys okay? It's like, oh, there was a Snorlax. Like, no one's ever seen a Snorlax in Rockford before. And I'm like, wow, it's
pretty great.
But that's so cool.
I know.
That was
right, but that's something, neat. It brought people together, and these people that I wouldn't ordinarily talk to, and I wasn't playing. I mean, my kids were playing it, but I'm the adult. I can talk to them. But
right.
it was just really neat that it's something that brought so many people together in a peaceful way.
Brought strangers together.
Yeah.
It's almost hard to say that now because you sound creepy when you say that you're excited about bringing strangers together. I'm genuinely surprised that we didn't get more bad news about Pokemon Go than we did. There was a couple idiots that were like walking in front of traffic and stuff, or playing Pokemon Go while they're driving, but that seemed like it was prime for something bad to happen, where somebody's gonna get kidnapped or stabbed or killed or something like that.
I got pulled over and accused of playing Pokemon Go. He didn't ask me if I was texting. He said, "Are you playing Pokemon Go?"
That's funny.
I'm not
Were
kidding.
you?
No, I wasn't.
He was texting.
Yeah, I was texting. No, no, I got pulled over for he called it an illegal lane change. Like I didn't use my turn signal or something when I was changing lanes, and but that's what I mean. Some people would think like, oh, you're texting and driving or something, or you're watching YouTube, but his first option was playing Pokemon Go. Yeah. So that's also interesting in that aspect.
People that had never even heard the word Pokemon before were playing Pokemon Go.
Yes. I mean, I was already too old past that sort of craze. I mean, that was something that came into reality, at least in this country. I mean, long after I was, that primary age demographic. Mm-hmm. But, my kids were, of that age. They, my son got into Pokemon Go and trading card. Or I should say Pokemon Go. He got into Pokemon and trading cards. So when Pokemon Go came around, my kids were just off the wall, excited for it.
So yeah, thanks Wayne for that comment for sure. The other ones I had on my list are pretty much safe answers. Super Mario Brothers. I mean, what that did for platforming, and what that did for teaching you how to play a game without giving you a tutorial was pretty brilliant, especially for the time. Tetris, that revolutionized puzzle games for sure. I mean, it's one of those like simple to learn, impossible to master type games.
I knew you'd bring up Tetris, Scott. I knew it.
How can you not?
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that whenever we talk about a puzzle game that has pieces falling from the top to the bottom, we say it's a Tetris-like game. It works kind of like Tetris. It's always the reference point for certain puzzle games. That's a revolutionary thing.
In that case, Dark Souls has to be the most influential game ever, right? Every preview, it's like Dark Souls. Combat is like Dark Souls.
True.
The rule design is like
Dark Souls.
Vibes.
Souls-like combat.
Yes, exactly. Yes, Souls-like combat. Although you know what, Dark Souls probably is a pretty influential game. But
I agree,
yeah.
and that's coming from a guy that doesn't go nuts for it. I genuinely wish I had gotten into Dark Souls. I hit it too late, and it already looked like an old game, and it's remastered now. I don't really have an excuse.
No, I mean it looked like an old game when it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was never a pretty game.
But just the sense of discovery and
mastering that.
The
combat.
things I love. The things I love about a Zelda game seem prevalent in the Souls games.
Yes,
but at a deeper level, and
especially the first Dark Souls, especially. Yes.
Yeah, I really should just go back and try that.
It's pretty good. You just gotta.
Do you think I could get past the is there a hump that you get past where it clicks?
Yes.
Okay.
There is.
How long does that take? About 12 hours?
No. I mean, did you beat any bosses when you played?
No, I beat bosses in Bloodborne.
I feel like when you get like 2 or 3 bosses into Dark Souls, I think it clicks.
I have to look for a sale.
It's pretty great. It seems like a game that'd be right up your alley.
It does, and I don't. I think I'm just scared of the difficulty. I think I'm a wuss, and with me trying to get through games as quickly as possible, I don't have time for games that are going to frustrate me.
Fair enough.
But
you're playing Legend of Zelda 2?
Well, that's for our Patreon people, man.
He's got to. It's for the people.
It's for the listeners. That's
man.
right.
Well, thanks to Wayne, Chad, Calvin, Matt, Sun Goku, Rico, Gamerdad, and David Newman for the comments, as well as everybody else who we didn't have time to get to. That was a fun topic. I'm surprised it took us that long to actually bring that one up. Oh, and thanks to
shout out to Space War.
Space War, yeah, the original revolutionary video game, right?
probably the most important one.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, and again, one shout out again to Jason Cartledge for the topic. That was really great, and hope you're enjoying the show, man. And thanks for joining.
Yes,
Speaking of Facebook, we've got some new members. If you haven't already, join the discussion over at facebook.com/groups/thegocast. This week we want to say hello to Jason, who I just mentioned. Also Kelly Sumption, John Jerome, Samantha Golden, Brian White, and Randy Crook. Thank you so much for joining. We've also got quite a few new members over at our Discord server. If you haven't joined there, there's some good conversation going over there. The link is in the show notes, as well as our website, which is thegamingoutsider.com. So on Discord, we want to say hello to Jerry Madrid, Fusion Stunter, Tim Paulin, Low Sugar Attack, Aro Alexis, and Brian White. Really appreciate you joining the group. And please go over to R2V2 as well and like the page. We'd really appreciate it. Speaking of the website, you're going to want to head over to thegamingoutsider.com to check out Bob's editorial on Anthem, because he sure thinks that it's a good time to get back into that game. Read his article over there. Let's go ahead now and chat about the games we've actually been playing. Zach, it's been so long since I got to hear you do this part, man. What games we got coming up in the near future?
Oh, man, yeah, the OG returns. Well, there's some 2D platforming and Exception coming out on PC, PS4, Switch, and Xbox on the August 13th. This game
That game looks awesome.
It's got a lot going. It's very busy visually. It's got quite the aesthetic.
It does.
But it does look really cool. It kind of reminds me of N+.
It does, but it looks like it spins on 3 axes instead of just the 2.
That trailer was hard to keep track of. I can only imagine playing this game. Don't drink and play this game, guys.
Or do any other type substances.
Yes,
right?
Well, I don't want to mention anything, Then we have the Visara collection coming out on PC, PS4, Vita on the 13th, and then a staggered release, Xbox One on the 14th and Nintendo Switch on the 15th. It's a vertical shoot 'em up, shmup, with like ancient Japanese aesthetic somehow, though.
But they're all arcade games. They're ports of the arcade games. So.
Oh, these? I've never played these games.
I haven't either.
Okay.
But I know that CB loves shmups, so he might be all over this.
Shmups are great.
I love them too.
And then Rebel Galaxy gets an expansion with Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, or is it a sequel? PC on August 13th. It's more Rebel Galaxy.
I believe it's a prequel.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, Rebel Galaxy always looked cool, but didn't do it for me. I don't know if either one of you played it.
I did not, no.
Nope.
It just very much looked like, hey, we made a Firefly game without the license.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah. And then Fell Seal Arbiter's Mark gets ported over to the Switch on August 14th. I've heard a lot of fantastic things about this game, actually. It is a tactics game. Very much.
Oh, yeah, it's multi-tiered. It looks like Final Fantasy Tactics, but with levels.
Yes, I've heard some people say this is the hidden gem of the year, game of the year candidate. I've been hearing a lot of hype. If you like those kinds of games, anyway. But I think Fire Emblem took the sales out of that one. Then you have Rogue Singularity coming out on the Switch August 15th. I already forgot what this game is about.
I did too. I actually watched the trailer.
I watched it right before we recorded. So that game's a standout, obviously. Shame on us.
It's a singularity that happens to be very rogue in the universe.
Yeah, it's a bad guy singularity, which is never good.
Yeah.
Now I feel bad for the developers on this one. But it's you know what? It's a 3D platformer.
Oh, yes, I remember now. It looked like an old school platformer.
Yeah, like a traditional like Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie style.
Yep.
3D platformer.
That's exactly what it was.
Actually looked kind of cute. Coming out on the Switch on the 15th. And then Aratana and the Twin Masks coming out on Xbox One August 16th. I guess this is a sequel to another Aratana game. But it looks like it looked vaguely 3D platformerish. Kind of looked more Zelda-ish with like a focus on puzzles and stuff. A lot of bow and arrow combat. It looked pretty neat, actually.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty interested in that one.
I agree. I was kind of surprised.
Mm-hmm. And all the trailers for those games that we're going to talk about here in the near future are in the show notes for the episode. So if anything sounds interesting to you, be sure to check that out. Bob, you were here and you have been playing a game for us called Kingdom Two Crowns on PS4. And I'm very intrigued by this because I watched the trailer and I was surprised to see that it's very pixelated. And I know that turns off a lot of people, but I thought that the animation looks really interesting on this. Did you find yourself distracted at all playing this with the graphics that are in there?
I thought it was a little distracting at first, but then I found in the option screen where you can actually take yourself back a little bit, instead of having, because I think you started a standard 4x visual acuity, and you can change it to 3 and go back a little bit, so everything doesn't look as pixelated. And then it looks a little bit more animated as things would.
Gotcha. Now talk to me about the gameplay on this one, because it was hard to gather what's going on in this one. It looks like tower defense mixed with, I don't know, I got a little Moonlighter vibe in it, like you're going out and doing some battles and whatnot, and then coming back and building up your defenses. What's going on with this one?
Well, it's a game that's a solo or a co-op, and you're basically a king or a queen, and you are securing your kingdom from what is called the Greed, and you can either call the Greed these little creatures that are literally trying to take everything from you, or the greed of, just basically trying to hoard your money. But it's just minimalistic town management, and you have to do things where you fight, weather and time and greed itself. It's something where a number of days will pass. There's nighttime, there's daytime, there's seasons. If you die as a king, you don't necessarily die. You lose your crown to one of these little greed critters. They take it away, and you're not the king anymore. And then one of your heirs takes over. And time has passed, so you need to rebuild your town, your castle, etc. You actually can't do any attacking yourself. You can get different mounts, like a horse or a lizard or a bear, and things like this that can do attacking for you. But mostly it's about recruiting townspeople and making them builders or archers or farmers, and you get money from what they do. Make little guys with little defenders with pikes, and they'll go fishing in when they got nothing else to do, and you'll get money off the fish they catch.
So this is more of a sim type game. I don't mean like The Sims, but like a Sim City or a Civilization or something like that.
Like I said, it's a very minimalistic town management sort of thing, but I think it's really interesting because there are so many different aspects to it. If you don't mind a little bit of a grind, as far as you can. You need money to do everything. You need money to give someone a spear. You need money to get them to come to your town, or different levels of walls and things like that. You can travel to different areas on the map, and you find I go to this area, now I can use stone, and I go to this area, now I can use brick. And you build bigger areas and with better defenses and better walls. And the objective is to defeat the greed, but it's also to properly manage your time and your money and your resources. And that's obviously more fun with co-op as well, which it does give. But yeah, for the most part, it really is more of a sim game, but I find it thoroughly entertaining, way more entertaining than I thought I did initially when I loaded it up.
Well, that was going to be my next question, is because we got this code for you from Raw Fury. Shout out to those guys who let you review this. But when I got you the code, the next day you messaged me saying something to the effect of, I got to go to work and I so don't want to. I just want to keep playing this game. What is drawing you to this game and making you keep playing it so much?
It's thoroughly addictive. I mean, and I don't say that in a bad way. I mean, it's something that it's a game that I enjoy, because I liked simulation games. I was a big sim fan growing up, Roller Coaster Tycoon, things like that. So this sort of a game is a draw to me. Now, it's not necessarily a sim in that you can build roads and things like that, but you have to decide where your resources go and how they go. And then there's different things that change the resources. Like I said, like when it's wintertime, there's less animals out there. So you got to find different ways to make money and keep your people happy and things like that. So, I mean, playing it the first 2-3 days, hours would pass and I'd have no idea. I mean, that's fun to me. You know, when you lose all concept of time with a video game, I mean,
mark of a good game.
Exactly. That's exactly, you know, some people want it for, you know, what I think video games should be used for, you know, rest and relaxation, you know, recharge your batteries, let your mind drift, you know, just don't think about work or whatever, school, whatever else you have going on. And that is exactly what this game did. So what I like video games for, this one achieved its goal immensely on day one. So
sounds good. So I think it's safe to say that you recommend this one, yes?
Absolutely, I would.
Great. Again, that is Kingdom 2 Crowns, and Bob is playing that on the PS4.
Well, you've been playing something, right, Scott? Pictoquest.
I have.
On the Switch.
Yes.
So you like Picross? It looks like Picross.
It is Picross. If you're not familiar with Picross, do I need to explain Picross to you guys, or have you played it before?
No, I feel like that's one of those understood things, right? You don't need to explain a puzzle game anymore, right?
No, there's something so addictive about Picross, and if you're not familiar with it, it's kind of like Sudoku meets Minesweeper. That's how I've been explaining it to people. But Pictoquest takes that formula of Picross and turns it into an RPG, a very light RPG. It's basically the puzzles.
Is it just by light RPG? Do you mean like Puzzle Quest?
Puzzle Quest is, I would still consider, a deep RPG. There's a lot of moving parts in Puzzle Quest in terms of armor.
This is simpler than that?
Way simpler.
Okay.
I mean, the RPG, I know I get railed on for saying RPG elements, but the RPG elements in this are, instead of just the puzzles, you're actually, like in Puzzle Quest, there are moments where you're actually fighting against a bad guy. And basically what that does is it turns it into a timed Picross puzzle. So instead of just doing a Picross puzzle at your leisure, you've got a timer, but they hide it. Instead of giving you a countdown timer, they give you some hearts or hit points, and they give the enemy some hit points. And as long as you can clear a complete row or a complete column before their attack meter or their ATB battle meter gets filled, it will keep them from attacking you. So it's not just a straight timer. It actually mixes it up a little bit, which is clever.
That's pretty cool. Yeah,
yeah, I like it.
Is there a story?
It's stressful.
Is there a story behind this RPG?
There is. It's so disposable. I can't even remember what it is.
Okay.
It's. I kind of skipped through it just because I was so uninterested. I just wanted to get to the next Pictoquest, to the next Picross challenge. But I'm about halfway through it. It's got a decent amount of content for it, considering it's only like $7 or $8. And this came out of nowhere. I hadn't heard about this game at all. And all of a sudden, my Twitter's blowing up, and everybody's talking about this.
My Twitter timeline exploded for this game.
Yeah, so I just decided for $7, I love Picross, and I'll give it a shot. And I'm happy I did. The timer ones bug me a little bit because you know me and timers. I hate countdown timers. I hate this pressure, especially in a game like Picross, because I love what's so satisfying about those games is just figuring out. I know this move is right because of this and this and this and connecting the dots. And when you put a pressure on me, I hate that. Thankfully, the timed missions are few and far between. But this is also a game that you ever play a game, whether it be a puzzle game or anything, where you just stare at it and you go, there's no way I'm ever going to pass this. You set it down and come back to it maybe an hour later and you beat it on the first try.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's this game.
Your brain figured it out for you.
Yeah. It clicks. I don't know how to explain this, but whenever I play a Picross game, I feel like I understand how coders think because I start seeing patterns in the numbers that just make me know that this certain pattern is going to be here. And it's an awesome feeling. I feel like a computer brainiac when I play this, and I know I'm not. I'm just drawing dots on the screen. But I do miss in a Picross game that you use the stylus. And I don't have a stylus for my Switch. I honestly don't even know if it works for this game. So I'm actually having to move a cursor to each tile and then either pressing it to mark it or mark it with an X that there's not a square there. I really would love to have a little stylus to do this. Maybe I just need to buy one, but if it works.
Or maybe you just need to get faster.
Maybe I need to get faster. I mean, I've got it down to a science. And that's what's nice about it is if you miss a puzzle, you can kind of memorize parts of it and then just do it over again and just fill in the parts that you memorized from before. But when you get to like a 15 by 15 grid, it starts to get a little bit more complicated to memorize those shapes. The other mechanics in here that they do to make it RPG-ish is you earn coins along the way, and you can use those for extra power-ups, like slow down the ATB gauge on your enemy or throw an attack spell at them to drop that ATB gauge or freeze them. But I saved up all my coins for an extra heart container for my hit points, which basically gives me a longer timer in essence.
Okay.
But it took a lot of coins to do that. But I'm enjoying this game, and I'm going to be playing it. I'm going to see it through to completion because I am loving this game a lot.
So you recommend it?
Absolutely. If you like Picross, this is a no-brainer. They've just taken it to another level they take it to another half level without taking it to another full level to make it overly complicated. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean they injected something a little new into the formula.
Yeah, just enough to make it new without just throwing new puzzles at you, which honestly they could keep doing and I'd be happy. But this is a refreshing change of pace. So I would recommend Pictoquest. I'm playing it on the Switch.
Great.
Also, Scott, you've been playing Rogue Legacy on iOS by Cellar Door Games. This was something that was initially released in 2013. In 2014, it won a must-have for handheld games. It came to many other systems, Xbox in 2015, Switch at the end of 2018, and now a meager half week ago to iOS. It released its first big update in 2018 with new content, quality of life features. Now, this is something that you had enjoyed and you were excited for. Why?
I'm going to tell you that if I had played Rogue Legacy in the year it came out, I feel confident in saying it would have been my game of the year.
Wow.
I adore Rogue Legacy so much. It scratches so many of those itches for me in terms of roguelikes, in terms of just feeling like I'm getting more and more powerful, but also getting better at the game. When you take down some of those bonus bosses, it is the most satisfying feeling, almost to a Dark Souls or Bloodborne level of, slaughtered. Like, it just feels good. Your reflexes have to be fantastic to beat some of those bosses. And I just decided, I want to check this out. And they offered me a review copy to try this on iOS. But don't let that stop you from playing this on iOS. If you ever wanted to try it but didn't want to pay the $15 or $20 to try it on a console, it's $4 on iOS. Now, I will say this is a twitchy twitchy game. You need good reflexes and precision to play this game. So iOS isn't the ideal place to play this game because you don't have buttons. You have buttons that are on-screen button prompts, basically. But with that said, they've actually made the gameplay slightly easier because they know that's the case. So it's almost like it's on easy mode, but that's the normal mode for the iOS version, which is really cool. One other thing that I like that they changed on this, even though I don't play a lot of platformers on my phone, they've made some of the things just very intuitive and easy. You know how like in a platformer, if you want to jump down a ledge,
sure,
you have to press down and the A button, or down in this game, it's just a swipe.
Oh,
you don't even have to press the button. You just swipe down and it does it, and that's fantastic.
That's really nifty.
Simple little touches like that work really well. They've added some bonus stuff in there too. All the bonus content from the original game, plus they've got some new treasure areas, some new bosses, and I haven't played a ton of it just because it's not my preferred method to play Rogue Legacy. I already own it on Xbox, so if I'm really going to dive deep into it, I'm going to play it with a controller. But like I said, if you just have ever wanted to see why I love this game so much, and especially if you have a controller for your phone or one of those devices that will actually press the buttons for you and you can have that tactile feel, give Rogue Legacy a shot. It's such a fantastic game, and all the music is carried over perfectly. The humor is there. They've even added some new, what do they call this? Your legacy, your
bloodline,
heirs,
your genealogy.
Yeah, the bloodline, because that's part of the shtick of this game is that you come back with a different heir, and they have a different ability attached to them, or in some cases a hindrance. And they've done some new things to make that even more interesting. So it's a lot of fun. Play Rogue Legacy.
Well, I think it can be safe to say that you recommend it, but for the unindoctrinated, can you explain what a rogue or roguelike game is?
Well, sure. A roguelike, it's hard to really define this. I was actually talking to Thomas the other day, and he was kind of having me define it, and I was struggling to define it. But in my mind, a roguelike is a game where it's not a game that's like a start to complete that's going to be hours and hours and hours long. You're looking at most a couple hours to complete a quote-unquote run. And the idea is that you're not going to survive it on your first time. You're trying to get as far as you can with what you have. But once you die and you start over again, there's some kind of mechanic that makes you stronger the next time. And that's what this game does, is you collect gold, you spend the gold to increase your stats, and then your next run you just come back with that much more resolve, and eventually you max out your stats, and then you just become a god as you slice your way through this castle, and that's how it works.
Is there a con, perhaps, to when you die and someone else in your bloodline takes over and you're given a random ability, you're given a random look? I'm not even sure if it's random weapons or whatever it might be, or if it's the same weapon based on whatever character you have or sex or whatever it is. Is it somewhat self-defeating having to start over like that randomly? Or, do you think it'd be better just to respawn as yourself, even if it's like, right at the beginning?
Well, that's actually the fun of the game. The random nature is the fun of the game. On the surface, yes, it sounds like it would suck just to start over and not have that character that you really liked. But you keep all the stats of the character regardless of your heir. So any of your hit points that you've built up, any of your magic points you've built up, or any of these special abilities, you keep all of that. That all stays no matter what heir you have. What changes, and your primary weapon always stays the same, but depending on which heir you choose or allotted, you have a special attack that is individualized for those. It might be a scythe weapon. It might be a giant sword that comes in the screen for their special weapon. And then the attributes are different for each heir. Like one character might have color blindness. So when you go to play through the dungeon the next time, it's all in black and white. One might be reversed, which I never play with that one. I just skip it if I can. It turns the entire game upside down, so you're actually jumping from the ceiling to the floor, which is it's crazy. One might make it look like you're at a disco or something. It's just fun little things that make it different. One might make your character super tiny, so his hitbox is obviously a lot smaller. One might make your character really heavy, which makes him not be able to jump as high, but he's also very resilient and doesn't get knocked back when you're attacked. So it's a fun way to make each run feel fresh, even though you're doing the same thing. And then the levels are completely randomized as well, so you never know which is the right direction to go to find the boss and eventually unlock this giant door to beat the final boss. And it's just a delight to play. I can't put it down when I play it.
Well, I think it's easy to understand what your answer would be, but would you recommend this to our listeners?
100% recommend Rogue Legacy. Cannot recommend it enough. Go play Rogue Legacy.
There you go, folks. Rogue Legacy, now on iOS and pretty much every other system you can find by Cellar Doors, as reviewed by Scott.
All right, we got one more review for you right now. I chatted with Thomas, who I mentioned a second ago. He reviewed a game called Golden Treasure, The Great Green on PC, and I'm going to go ahead and play that review for you right now. Greetings, Thomas. How you doing, man?
Hey, Scott. I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Doing very well, man. You were here to talk to us about yet another point-and-click adventure game called Golden Treasure, The Great Green. I watched this trailer, and I got to say, The visuals in this look stunning, very artistic. They look hand-painted, but I really want to hear about the story of this game because I didn't bother to read all the text in the trailer. So what's going on in Golden Treasure?
Well, if you don't like reading all the text, then this is not a game for you because there's a lot of text here. This game is very, very much story-based. It's not a traditional point and click in that you control a character that picks up stuff and etc. etc. No, here you are a dragon and you basically have the whole lifespan of a dragon from hatchling to elder and well, who knows what more. It is a dragon simulator. That's what I would call it. Like the visuals indeed are very, very beautiful. Lots of hand-painted stuff. There are two parts to this game. One is the story part where you discover parts of your area and you meet other inhabitants and you hunt. The other part is the combat, which happens if you hunt successfully but don't manage to kill your prey instantly, because you have to eat and you have to collect treasure. Those are the goals. And treasure in the most broad sense of the word. Treasure does not necessarily have to be physical treasure. There can also be other forms of treasure. And the game is very poetic about this. It is completely viewed from the viewpoint of the dragon. All the animals are named, well, the way a dragon would name them.
Okay.
Including the tailless, which are humans. And they are the big enemy. And they kill one of your creators. And what the game's developers have managed to do is create a very beautiful mythology in which you play a dragon and you come across many different things in this world. This is definitely a fantasy world, but there are some real life influences in here. There are also some things to discover that make no sense to this dragon. And all the while you are building up your strength, you are building up your treasure pile, you are increasing your elemental strength, because the dragon, everything is on 4 elements, water, fire, earth and air, and that has an influence on combat. Fire, for instance, is pure strength, water is more flexibility, air is intelligence, and earth is health. So if you're very strong on earth, you are very healthy, you can take a lot of hits. But if you're very strong on fire, for instance, you do a lot of damage, but you might not be so flexible. That's the stuff you develop by trial and error, because even when you fail at tasks, you would in most cases still gain experience and be better at it. And in that way, by discovering different areas, by keeping yourself fed, and by hunting for treasure, you discover more and more of this world and more of what is going on in the story. And at the end of the story, it is all based on time. At the end of the story, you move on to the next chapter, and which basically means you go to sleep and you wake up a older dragon. So you go from hatchling to young adult, or from young adult to adult, or from adult to elder.
Okay, so talk to me about the combat a little bit, because from the trailer, it looks like there's some turn-based combat going on. I saw a couple what look like orbs hitting each other, and one would get destroyed and one becomes victorious. How does the combat work in this game?
Yeah, the orbs are the elemental aspect. So you pick the thing you want to do. For instance, you want to use your breath weapon, which is a fire thing, and one element is better against another element. So if you pick an element that is very powerful against the element that your opponent picks, then you do more damage, or you maybe strike sooner, or that kind of thing. Gotcha. Now, in the beginning, I found the combat in the beginning was quite difficult, because you are a small dragon, and even the smallest opponents can hurt you. So the first 2 chapters, I had quite some difficulty with combat. The first time I played it, I failed. I died. You have multiple lives, by the way. If you die the first 2 times, it's basically, it was all a dream. You get back at the start of the day, and you can try again. But the third time you die permanently. That is dead. But you do get to take certain things with you when you start a new life. And if you have completed a chapter, then you can start anew at the start of the next chapter.
Oh, so like a checkpoint kind of.
Sort of, yeah, but more in a story kind of mode. The first 2 times I played it, I started completely anew, and then you have to answer some questions, and the answers to those questions determine the elements in you as a dragon. And the 3rd time I played it, I decided to skip the first chapter and start straight at the 2nd chapter, and then I just got like the way you have in role-playing games, like you get experience points and you can put them in the elements the way you like. Okay. And that was also the time that I managed to finish the game for the first time. I did not manage to discover everything. There was a lot to discover. There's a lot to do. You can challenge other dragons, which I only did once. You can find weird stuff, and there are multiple endings. So this game is definitely replayable by choosing different things and trying out different approaches to the problems you encounter and to the creatures you can come in contact with.
So how long does it take you to complete a run?
That is a good question. I actually have not checked yet how long.
We're talking like 6 hours, 12 hours, 20 hours?
For a chapter, I think a chapter can easily be like an hour or 3-4. There were 4 chapters.
Okay.
I got the impression that, well, the first chapter is actually quite short because it's, I think, 10 turns.
Gotcha.
But later chapters are quite a bit longer. I'm checking now. I have played the game in total of 15 hours. So that means that even with starting anew for a few times, I managed to finish the game in 15 hours.
There you go. Is this a game that you recommend people check out?
Yes, it's very poetic. You do read a lot because your choices are they're all text-based. It's not like you're moving around. If you see the area map, it has markings on them that are the places that you can visit, and every visit is one round, and one round is 1 day.
Okay, so it's got a little time element as well.
Yeah, and you get more hungry, and then you have to hunt. And at first, you have to hunt quite a lot because the creatures you hunt are they only give you a small amount of energy. And later on, you can hunt bigger creatures that give you more energy, so you have more room to explore if you time it all correctly. And you heal faster and stuff like that. So it's a very interesting game, and it rewards sticking with it. It can get frustrating. The combat is not easy, even though the way it is. You simply pick what you want to do. That way it is easy. But that doesn't mean that you always win. It became a bit more easier once I became a more powerful dragon, but then you can also run into other powerful dragons, which makes the combat quite hard. And you also have sequences where combat is different, where you do challenges for ancient dragons, and it all goes where the mechanics are the same, but the results are different. It's hard to explain without getting into spoilers, because as I said, there's a lot to explore, there's a lot to find, and a lot to experience, because the mythology and the story is very well done. It's very poetic. It gets supported by the music. The music is not very, very present. It's just there, but there is a beautiful score that you will notice more if you play longer. In the beginning, you'll be very focused on the game itself, and the score doesn't stand out for me. The third time I played it, the score really became strong, and I would definitely play it again to see what happens if I pick a different ending, or if I pick a different part of the country to explore, or make different choices.
Sounds good. Again, that is Golden Treasure, The Great Green. That comes from the developer Dreaming Door Studios, and shout out to Super Indie Games for providing Thomas with a copy to review that for us. I really do appreciate it. And Thomas, thanks so much for coming and chatting with me about the game.
Yeah, thank you too for having me review this game. I had a lot of fun with it, so thanks.
Not a problem, man. Sounds good. You have a good one, all right?
You too, Scott. Bye-bye.
All right, guys, any other games you've been catching up on you want to talk about?
I'm just trying to catch up on the new Anthem that came out. I shouldn't say the new Anthem. Anthem's still the same, but all the extra stuff they put in with the Cataclysm that's been released now. There's extra storyline and such. Obviously, I mean, if you're not really sure, go read what I wrote on the website. But you should go pick it up. It's a lot of people are dissuaded just because of EA or Anthem didn't seem to be doing a lot of stuff, making a lot of sways publicly as far as improving their game, but they were definitely lying low when they did it, and I think they came out with a good little bit of extra something on it. So yeah, I'll be catching up on Anthem, and I think you should too.
All right, so those that haven't read your article yet, what did people not like about it that they've now fixed in the update?
The broad scale of it is that it's a very large world, but like a lot of games of this nature, it just didn't have a lot of leveling. You got to a certain level, you got to a certain strength, your weapons got to a certain power level, and that was about it. And you had different guns you can use or different abilities, but you just hit a cap and there wasn't much else to do. You had a couple of little areas that were a little tougher, strongholds as they call them. But for the most part, they were fun and challenging, but they only had 2. So you were just basically doing the exact same thing over and over, and that could change with difficulty or how you did it based on what other javelins were in your party. But for the most part, there wasn't a lot of content after really what was probably a month and a half, even for myself. But what happened with the Cataclysm, they came out with a lot of new content. They came out with new weapons, obviously. You were talking about loot boxes, new skins, things of that nature. But also the Cataclysm itself, which is what Anthem is considering their raid. And with the Cataclysm, what happens is you fly in with your party, and there are different things that go on. You basically have different rooms. It's timed, which obviously Scott won't like that part. But there are different things you can do, whether it's defeating someone in a certain way. There's a part of the Anthem's attack system is where one player can prime and the other one can set off. So I can, freeze someone, and then the next character comes in with a fireball and does extra damage because they're frozen. Something of that nature. So that there are different aspects to increase the time, and you have to find a way to get around and get to these 7 different rooms that also change. That's kind of the interesting aspect of the Cataclysm, is that it's constantly evolving. So every week or 2 weeks, they'll change the rooms around. They're different. They look different. You got to go a different way, face different foes. But that's what makes it interesting in their own little raid.
Well, one of the things that turned me off from this game is people complaining about loot drops and how they just weren't very plentiful. They weren't very fun. Has that been addressed?
It has, and actually it was addressed a while back. The issue with the loot drops is that, well, to my knowledge, they were extremely plentiful. The problem was they weren't necessarily good or efficient. You get to, like I said, you get to a level like you have like a basic weapon is a gray, and then you have a green, and then a blue, and then a purple, and then a gold. And when I have everything up to a gold level, I'm still getting gray and blue drops. I don't need those. Can I get something else to increase my current weapon? And that's the problem, is that what a lot of people wanted was their drops to be good and efficient and to grow. And you did. Your drops grew with your level, your pilot level, and they wanted a lot more instant success. So they did a lot of heavy drops a lot faster, a lot of better weapons, a lot more quickly. But the problem with that is that it made people really happy, but they didn't realize that they were going to get turned off so quickly because, well, it's, I'm a month and a half, 2 months in. I've got everything. I've done everything. And now I still have to wait another month and a half for the Cataclysm. Oh, you're pushing it off till June? Oh, you're pushing it off to July? Oh, you're pushing it off till August? And here we are. So we finally got it, but a lot of people have left because they've been turned off because of those systems or settings. But I think that they've made some strides. They made, not only things stronger, but they've made new weapons, new gear, new armor, new not only new types of weapons, but changing things up. Like each character had a specific melee. Now you can change your melee weapon and attack and all sorts of things. They changed different mechanics as far as how the characters, work in certain scenarios. So overall, I think it's a better game. I'm not saying it's perfect. I mean, what game is? But I also think that, I think they made a really good game. I just don't think that it was complete initially. And I think they may have, rushed it just to get it out. But they're making strides. And I think that if Anthem was something that you enjoyed initially as I did back in February, it's worth picking up.
All right, man. Well, thanks so much for the update. Do appreciate it. But that is going to do it for this episode of The Gaming Outsider. Zach, any parting words or recommendations for the listeners?
Hey, I'm happy I'm back. So that was cool.
We all are.
Yeah, well, thank you.
We're very happy you're back, man. Bob, what about you? Anything going on with you this week besides sleep?
Nah, just sleep. Hanging out with the kids as much as I can and, doing my part for the R2V2.
Awesome. I really appreciate the work you're doing there, man. Everybody else out there, thanks so much for listening. Please be sure to email us if you have any questions or concerns. Our address is feedback@thegamingoutsider.com. Until next week, I'm Scott Clark with Zach Parkerson and Bob Villarreal, and we are The Gaming Outsider. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you.